Hey y'all, grown black folks talk, the Roe versus Wade Roundup. Now, y'all know I do not ever address these things when they come out. We don't do breaking news, we don't do broken news. We sit down, we marinate, and we think about how can I present this to you in a way that you actually can do something about it. I'm doing this on Sunday, but this will come out on Monday morning. Okay, so Roe versus Wade has been overturned by the Supreme Court after 49 years. What does this mean? It does not mean abortion is ended. It means what the 10th Amendment actually says. All power is not expressly reserved to the federal government, return to our under the control of the states. So now abortion is becoming a state by state matter. So you're not going to have a return to 1973 conditions because you can't return to 1973. From here, we have to forge a different path forward. We're not going back to 1973 because we can't. So what does this mean? This means that federal oversight of abortion. In other words, while Roe versus Wade was in effect, no state could make a law outlawing abortion because it was held as being a constitutional right for women based on law parts in the Constitution around privacy. With that gone, this means that every state can make its own laws. Okay, so what does this mean? This means that the United States will now have a patchwork of state rulings about abortions. So let's look at this for example. And I'm going to link to a very good video by Sir Walter Jones, who broke down the different states and all the different the states that already ban abortion, the states that are likely to do this, and the states that are not. He did a very good video about it. I'm not going to attempt to duplicate his breakdown, but as far as I know, there are only 8 states that outright ban abortion, with the exception of the life of the mother. So let's say the mother has a ectopic pregnancy, which means that the fertilized egg implants into the fallopian tube where it cannot develop. It will kill, it will not develop and it will kill the mother in the meantime. Those things, and even those 8 states, are still permissible because they do save the life of the mother, and the baby is not going to be viable because the baby can't survive there either. So you have situations like that. Even the 8 states that have abortion being illegal still have that. There are a number of other states who have what's called trigger laws. If they haven't put them in place, they will. But if that is the case, then what you need to do, whether you are pro abortion or pro life, is go and talk to your state legislatures. This is the thing about politics, and this is why broken news. Everybody's out here protesting the Supreme Court. Forget that. Forget it. That's not going to change for 40 years because you have to look at the age of some of the conservative Supreme Court justices who were there. So how the United States government works is we have what's called a representative republic. We talk a lot about democracy. Forget it. You have a representative republic, meaning that you have an opportunity to choose some representatives who then appoint other positions of government that are not available for you to directly elect. James Madison already knew that in Virginia, he was outnumbered by a lot of people who would have liked to share his property among themselves to make it more fair. He had a great fear of democracy. His good friend, Thomas Jefferson, was terrified that their slaves would eventually reverse the game and put them in that position. They were not going to leave many angles for the people. I don't think they contemplated the end of the Civil War, but they didn't leave many angles for the people to be able to actually run the United States government. We talk a lot about democracy, but most of us don't understand how it works. On a federal level, no, we didn't even have direct election of the president here for a very long time. Not going to do that history lesson today. Point is, on a federal level, this is done for a long time on the Supreme Court side. I will come back. There is still something the federal government can do. But in the meantime, what you need to do you know who your state representative is? Do you know who your state senator is? I know you know your governor. Okay, so what you're going to have to do now is in states where this has not yet been enacted, if you are pro abortion, then you need to get on your state senators and representatives about either reversing what's just happened or holding on to the protections for it that you have or staying the course. If you are pro life, then you have to do the opposite. If you're in a state that has has made abortion illegal, great. Then you get to celebrate today. And then tomorrow, look out, because you're going to have to stay involved in your state politics as well. In states like California, like mine, we're not budging. Nothing's going to change here at all. So if nothing changing here at all, again, if you're pro-abortion, then you got to get your state representative to hold the line. And if you are pro-life, then you've got some work to do electing some different candidates, which also then brings us back to the federal government. It is remarkable to me that the Democrats in 49 years have not also backed up their espoused position by legislation. The federal government can legislate, it can pass a law making abortion legal. And then what would happen is that the pro-life contingency would then have to go back to the Supreme Court and prove that law unconstitutional, which would be much harder to do if we have some sharp minds in the Democratic Party at all. Now, there's some very sharp minds in the Republican Party. You gonna plan something for 49 years. It's like, what do retailers start planning for Christmas of this year? When do you start planning your Christmas sales for next year? December 26th. We have some very sharp Republican minds that in 1973 realized they wanted that thing reversed, and here we are. There are some sharp Democrats as well, so it surprises me in a way, but then I'm going to give you my insights about this, my opinions about this, and what I think about this, that they have not yet passed federal legislation to solve this problem. While it was considered constitutional, you also could have come from another angle and written a law such that if Roe versus Wade was overturned, then you still have legislative protection. But this has not been done. So on the federal level, we have a midterm election coming up. This is still a possibility on the federal level, but don't put your eggs in that basket no matter what position you hold. That is not how the United States is supposed to work. We know about the First Amendment. We know about the Fifth Amendment. The 10th Amendment is really important. Most things are not supposed to be handled on the federal level. The United States is really big. It has really big regional tendencies. It's always going to have really big regional tendencies. It's too big to be able to govern itself otherwise. The thing that you need to do is focus on your state. And I'm going to keep saying this over multiple different issues because there's a lot of stuff that's going to move on and a lot of stuff's going to go through the Supreme Court. You need to jump on your state representatives. Pay attention to who's being elected in your state and what they stand for. The federal show only happens every 2 to 4 years. Your state representatives, they just come through and go out and come through and go out and come through and go out and come through. And they are the ones who actually have the power to determine what happens to you. If you live in Texas, and then we do need to talk about certain states have restrictions on what week. You have a very different outlook on what week of your pregnancy you can have an abortion versus me in California. That's state by state, and that's how actually the United States is actually supposed to function. The only problem is we have some states that are just absolutely committed to returning to 1822 on some things. Although abortion is not really one of them. There's something else going on, in my opinion. There's several other things going on. Some of the states that are restricting abortion, having the most harsh restrictions on abortion, are also states that are trying to get the age of consent lowered to like 13 or 12. These are also groups of people who support the sterilization of Black and Latino women. Go back and look through the annals of the Attorney Generalship of Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III, who you know as Jeff Sessions. What you don't know is that he's named for two Confederate losers, Confederate Traitor President Jefferson Davis and Confederate Traitor General P.G.T. Beauregard, and has their mindset, having been trained 3 generations down to have it. So we're not thinking the United States is not in the process of, is not interested in increasing the birth rates of Black women. We have the highest infant mortality. And a lot of that has to do with and maternal mortality, how we're taken care of at these hospitals. There are a lot of people complicit in this. There's been studies done. But just understand that if you are a Black, Latino, or Asian woman, no one is interested in you having more babies. But if you lower the age of consent, what we're interested in is making sure that white women can have babies from 12 to 45 and have no way not to. Because demographically speaking, in elementary school, and you wonder why elementary schools are getting shot up and police are not responding, white people are a minority among elementary school age children. And in 25 years, they will be a minority in the United States compared to all other races of people, period. White people are headed for being a minority. So when you consider why suddenly restrictions and why birth control will be gone after as well, and why at the same time age of consent is going down, is because they want one group of women to be giving birth to babies from age 12 to age 45 in hopes of being able to catch up to demographic numbers. The sad part about this is genetics. You pay a heavy cost. Most of the world is brown, noticeably brown. White people are brown too, but a very pale shade of brown. And the way that you get those pale shades of skin and eyes and hair is through breeding recessive genes. You keep doing that and you have sperm counts that don't count. Because what happens is every mechanism, I don't care whether you talk about a plant or anything else, every mechanism eventually protects itself from being breeded out of existence by not allowing overly recessive pairs to reproduce. You can see this in plants, you can see this in animals, and unfortunately, humans are subject to this. European reproduction rates around the world are crashing. African women, nope. African American women, nope. Well, there are sperm count guys in men. Modern pollution has a terrible effect on that, but not at the high rate that people of European descent. So why are we doing this now? Because the United States is feeling the pinch. In 20 states already, there are more white people dying than being born. And if you love your children and they are dark skinned, find a way to pull them out of elementary school, because you've seen already Uvalde's are almost entirely Latino town, and the police let someone go in there and let those children be sitting ducks for an hour. I just told you one of the reasons why that is. Don't forget that Jeff Sessions once told police officers that he loved them because they were good and strong and Anglo. White. So there's that piece of the puzzle. Now, in the Black community, there's another piece of the puzzle, and this affects us indirectly. You know that now there is a push to replace the people that Joe Biden put in his crime bills, put in prison 30 years ago. They're now old men. Their time to be able to be productive in the prison industrial complex is running out. Well, those people have to be replaced. Unfortunately, Black men are participating in the setup now to have themselves put in by 2030, but in 20, 30 years, it'll have to be done again. Guess what? Since this country cannot even figure out how to get formula for the children that already exist, so what are we going to do with an extra million babies coming through here again? And see, and this is where you need to get into pro-lifers' grills. Now, I'll use myself as an example. I waited till all this time to tell you I'm pro-lifer. I'm pro-life. However, I'm not celebrating in the streets because I know what that means. If we're going to have a million more babies in here, what y'all need to be doing is making sure that the pro-lifer you're talking to or listening to or hearing is principled. I've already put in 25 years with underprivileged children. I know what that takes. A pro-lifer needs to have a principled position, which is if these babies are going to be born, then we need to be involved in taking care of them. So what everybody needs to be doing, and what I will be doing when I talk to white evangelicals who are on this page, okay, what are you doing to support the babies that are already out there? What are you doing to support their mothers? What are you doing to support those women? Because otherwise you're a hypocrite. You pro-baby, but you don't care the least bit about human life. You're not pro-life, you're a hypocrite, you're a Satanist. Because all you're doing is you want people to be here, to be broken, to be messed up, to breed chattel for your prison industrial complex system that half of y'all are invested. And because I got lifetime income report for 5 years, I can tell you what these people are invested in. Y'all look up Core Civic and the kind of dividends it was paying out. It used to be the Corrections Institute of America, paying out 20% dividends on Black bodies in prison. Look up the Atlanta Black Star on how many items are made from prison labor paying 90 cents to $4 a day. This is one of the most certain investment, lifetime income investments in the United States of America. And 30 years down the line, you're going to need another set of poor kids whose parents were not ready to have them, who could not find resources. Pro-lifers talk big, but they don't provide resources. They don't vote for candidates who do. The same Republicans gut social programs, the same Democrats participate in the gutting. Don't forget that Joe Biden and Bill Clinton were there at the same time. Gutting programs so we can have poor kids that are going to go into crime and then fill up these prisons so we hold on to our investments. And if you want to know why the Democrats have not passed legislation to protect abortion, it's really that simple. They want poor children too to be chattel. Because and this is the other thing, you know where the rest of those kids go? They have to go into the military. You got to have a volunteer army. You have to have people willing to go fight wars around the world with people that basically haven't done anything to us. But you got to have enough poor kids that don't have options, because you got to have prison investments and you have to have a military. Now, my father is a veteran. I respect the men and women who have fought for this country. But you got to understand, people do it because there's no other options to do it. Most people are not trying to grow up in the morning, get up in the morning like, when I grow up, I'd like to go kill people that have done nothing to me around the world. That's not what happens. So you got to have a generation of children that don't have better options. Because, and the thing about it is, this has been going on around us for a very long time. And maybe it's just time for it to be exposed. I am a pro-lifer who is principled. I understand why people get into these situations that they feel like they have no choice but to abort. I get it. So my job is to do what? When I talk to people that are like, well, I got to deal with drugs, I don't have anything better. My job is to roll up on you and be like, no, that's probably not what you want to do, but here's something better. Please do not abort your child. I will take responsibility to help you find the services you need to feel supported. That's what a principled pro-lifer is supposed to do. I'm in an abusive situation with this man. And if I have a child with this man, I had an aunt that went through this. I'm going to be connected with this man for my entire life. She aborted the child because she could not deal with the fact that this man was a crazy man and potentially a killer. She had to get away from him completely. She aborted her child. And I look back on that and I think to myself, okay, what other options did she have? And it was illegal then. That particular aunt, she was tough though. She's going to get it done. She didn't feel like she had any better options. There was nobody around to give her a better option. So get in pro-lifers grill. If you're pro-choice, get in pro-lifers grill. If you are pro-life like me, get in pro-lifers grills. If we're going to say we think as a Christian, because I've read Psalm 139 and because I've read Psalm number 1, not Psalm number 1, Jeremiah 1, I know the womb is God's workplace of making human beings. And if that's where God is doing his work, no human being has a right to get in there and stop him. Women have choice, and with the exceptions, there's going to be exceptions, but not the rule. Most people come here consensually. So that's where men and women have their right not to have children. You lay it down, you have sex, you deal with the consequences. You don't have the right to take that out on the child who's in the womb, supposed to be in a protected position while God forms them into a human being. That's my position, having read the scripture from cover to cover. I have no choice but to have that position, because either I take that position or I let women play like men play at being God. No, we're not going to do that over here. However, what does this mean? If you value God's handiwork, you value it after it comes out of the womb. Because here's the thing, y'all, with Roe versus Wade being gone, the children are coming. So I will talk to people who are pro-choice about, okay, that's done. In California, that was done. Nothing changes out here. Now, what the children are coming. What are you prepared to do? I'll talk to my fellow pro-lifers. What are you prepared to do? Because those children are coming. And a lot of them are going to be coming into the Black community. And we already are having difficulty. So at this point, the children are coming. We have to prepare for them. All the demographic change, all this and all that, as a practical matter, the children are coming. Their mothers are going to need us more than ever. So now it's preparation time. For me, and the arguments about this, like I said, in California, nothing's changing. And in some states, nothing's changing. If you are in a state where it's up in the air or it has changed, then yes, you need to get involved with your state politics. You want it to either stay that way or change back. But the mothers and their babies are coming. So at this point, the other thing I have to tell you about us needing to concentrate on is getting ready. I prayed with my church about this. People were very disturbed. And I said, Lord, uh, give us the money. If it is your will, and apparently it is, because Roe versus Wade has been overturned, we're going to need a lot of resources in here to take care of what's going to happen. You're basically handing us another million lives to take care of in this country, in a country that does not give two dead flies. How do I know this? Because nobody could find formula and nobody could figure it out for a long time. Well, it was only a few months. If you have a baby developing, that's not just a few months. Well, they have breast. Not if there are children who are allergic to work, and there are mothers who have to work. So I asked the Lord, give us the money. Now I know I have subscribers who are like, drop them kids off. Do you recognize that in post Roe versus Wade, there gonna be some kids dropped off on us? I know, I know. At another time, I'll do a video about, okay, I know a lot of Black women are now, we're in the mindset of being footloose and fancy free. Times they are changing. That may be possible, but just understand your sister may be in a desperate situation. She has a child she can't take care of. She doesn't know about adoption options. Another year, we let the Supreme Court do what it's doing. There may not be birth control options either in some states. Your sister, with her child in her womb, may be ready to do something desperate to herself that will cost her her life, in addition to the child in her womb. Drop them kids off. May end up looking that you may have to take up a little bit more to save the life of your sister if it matters to you. If it matters to you. Supreme Court that we have is going to be there for a long time. It's competition, being mostly conservative. It's going to be there for a long time. Get involved with your state. Hold your church's feet to the fire. A church is a 501c3, meaning it's supposed to be public benefit. Its purpose is religious. But since churches are so rah-rah on getting involved with politics, owing to the religious issues around Psalm 139 and Jeremiah 1, you have a right to talk to them about what are they planning to do, because Jesus loves the little children. Get involved with your community centers, get involved with your churches. Hold their feet to the fire. The children are coming. Get ready. We are in a different environment. Their children are coming and their mothers will need our help. To me, because I told you, broke it down for you. I will leave that video in the description that Sir Walter Jones has done, talking about what's happening in the different states and the different trigger laws. You can get into that so you can get ready if you want to get involved in your state politics. But the children are coming. What are we going to do? Prepare to meet the conditions. All right. Y'all have a good day now. Hope to have and no, it'll be actually be just as grim, because this kind of relates to, okay, so on the front end of this is men and women. There's some things that I realized kind of studying this over the weekend and listening to different men talk about what they want in a good woman and why we get into these situations where we have children that we are sending out broken into the world to repeat the cycle. But I'll have to get into that a little bit. I have to get into that next time. Wind is staying quiet today, so we'll see what happens. Y'all have a good day now. Goodbye.